Dr. Jordan Peterson spoke to Vivek Ramaswamy, author, entrepreneur, and 2024 presidential candidate about his ongoing campaign. Ramaswamy discusses the conventional wisdom of political consultants, advising candidates to dumb down their material, a view he has done his best to confront and contradict. Highlighting Ramaswamy's views, he explains that he finds it most impactful when he disregards this advice, revealing a correlation between his effectiveness and the depths of the ideas he presents. Crucially, this attitude reflects an encouraging change in the voter base, as it seems voters are increasingly desiring in-depth content, defying past expectations of a short attention span. Ramaswamy sheds light on the experience of being on the campaign trail and how political narratives are often reduced and oversimplified to fit into short TV ads or quick televised segments. In this pursuit, important nuances are often lost, turning complex issues into a binary of good versus evil. He criticizes the tendency to personify political issues into figures like Joe Biden rather than address the underlying systems and structures at play. Interestingly, Ramaswamy shares that the reductionist messaging does not resonate with everyday voters. Instead, he receives more intellectually stimulating and profound questions from the general public than he often does from formal settings or professionals. These questions hint at a public that is dissatisfied with the mainstream narrative and eager for a more substantial discourse. Suggesting America is in a 1776 moment, Ramaswamy expresses that this is a time of revolution and change. He discusses the rise of long-form podcasts and audiobooks, suggesting a demand for extended, in-depth content and larger, more direct interaction with audiences. This shift, he indicates, stems from a societal hunger for unmediated human connectivity and the ability to verify authenticity in conversations. Ramaswamy's perspective on long-form, in-depth content may indicate a shift in political communication strategies and voter expectations, a trend toward authenticity and away from reductionist soundbites. Vivek Ramaswamy reveals his campaign strategy, contending that campaign spending doesn't directly translate to success. Citing empirical evidence from previous Republican poll versus expenditure data, he suggests that being effective doesn't require a gigantic cash outlay, stating that his campaign has so far spent tens of thousands, not millions. He hints this frugality could be indicative of a successful path. Ramaswamy highlights how the role of large donors has traditionally shaped political campaigns, often taming candidates to adhere to set agendas. However, he positions himself as an outsider, unfettered by such constraints. His independence, thanks partly to self-financing and support from small donors, creates space for him to embrace a more revolutionary approach. Part of that approach, Ramaswamy explains, is a proposed mass layoff in federal bureaucracy. He suggests civil service laws have hitherto been misinterpreted, arguing they only protect individuals from being fired, not mass layoffs. He plans to abolish institutions like the FBI and the Department of Education, integrating their necessary functions into other departments, thereby eliminating redundancy and bureaucracy. Ramaswamy emphasizes that this drastic change requires an in-depth understanding of the country's laws and constitution. It's not about starting from scratch, he says, or assuming hubris to design something anew, but rather aligning governance more closely with the Constitution. When confronted with the potentially harmful consequences of such radical change, Ramaswamy draws upon the square root law, proposing that a small number of employees typically do most of the work in large-scale institutions. His examples allude to recent business figures who successfully streamlined operations through layoffs, inferring that similar principles could apply to government institutions. However, he understands that this approach requires careful identification of who stays, who goes, and scrutiny of potentially damaging effects. Ramaswamy mentions that many federal regulations and rules are deemed unconstitutional, including those of the EPA and other agencies, essentially rendering many employees unnecessary. This, he suggests, validates his point that a leaner government is perfectly feasible while remaining within the bounds of the Constitution. Candidate Vivek Ramaswamy discusses his unique intersection of broad experiences in entrepreneurship, sciences, and constitutional law, and how this equips him for potential presidency. Ramaswamy differentiates his skill set from those of other candidates emphasizing that his varied experiences furnish him with a nuanced understanding of the principles required to guide a nation. However, he acknowledges that navigating the path of political leadership requires more than just an impressive resume, backgrounds, or experiences. Ramaswamy believes it is equally important for a leader to articulate and passionately believe in a vision for the nation's future. According to him, this is what separates him from his competitors and resonates with younger demographics. He's committed to changing the way leadership is perceived and aims to treat his campaign as a long-standing job interview with the American public. Despite his interests in science and business, Ramaswamy says he was drawn into the world of U.S. law and politics as a sense of duty. He was increasingly intrigued by the enabling principles that underpin American society, which motivated his study of law and political philosophy. This intellectual curiosity, coupled with his scientific expertise and entrepreneurship experience, led him to perceive a unique opportunity to streamline and revamp the U.S. administrative state. Ramaswamy also explains his departure from science to tackle what he calls cultural cancer. He felt that it was a pressing issue not receiving enough attention. To him, wokeism and capitalism's merging forces have created a harmful cultural cancer that needs addressing. Importantly, Ramaswamy acknowledges that this path requires a firm understanding and commitment to the Constitution, which necessitates a deep intellectual, historical, and principled understanding. Finally, regarding the Constitution, Ramaswamy wonders what our nation's founders would think if they witnessed modern America. He suspects they would be appalled, a feeling he shares. To him, this signals a need to return to the way of the Constitution. This aspiration, paired with his unique experiences and the ability to articulate a resonant vision, distinguishes him from other candidates. The podcast continues with a focus on candidate Vivek Ramaswamy's vision for the future and what it means to be an American. Not only does Ramaswamy aspire to revive national pride, especially amongst the younger generations, but he also seeks to re-instill a sense of duty and belonging. Ramaswamy highlights the importance of having a clear affirmative vision, where individuals, communities, and the nation as a whole prioritize the shared identity of being an American instead of focusing on divisive identity politics. He also mentions the importance of encouraging the valuable ethics of hard work and self-discipline. Discussing the significance of family and community, Ramaswamy believes that a strong emphasis on these aspects leads to a more balanced and healthy nation. To this end, he admits to attempting to affirm this vision of society in the U.S., rooted in the importance of the individual and the family, the nation, and a belief in a higher power. He also refers to the importance of renewing the value of being an American citizen with responsibility first to one's family and then to the larger society, a society that would revert to celebrating unity under shared beliefs and principles. Another integral part of Ramaswamy's outlook is the importance of examining and countering the discourse around unknown catastrophes and challenges that will shape the future. He holds a critical view about instilling fear through an apocalyptic vision as a means of garnering power, oftentimes used as a common tactic by other political contenders, especially in reference to the current environmental crisis discourse. Ramaswamy stresses the necessity of offering a positive vision of the future filled with optimism rather than fear, allowing citizens to adopt attitudes of resolution and forward thinking. His goal is to provide a hope-filled vision, inspiring individuals to strive for a better future rather than succumb to fear and inactivity. Ramaswamy perceives this hopeful vision as being grounded in a strong contract of fidelity to the Constitution and the principles it stands for. He believes that a renewed America necessitates a renewed West, calling for the revival of constitutional principles, an ordering of society that elevates individual freedom, and an affirmation of national pride and patriotism. For Ramaswamy, this vision is centered upon a robust sense of individual identity at the core, which expands to include family, community, and national responsibilities, ultimately operating under a higher power or universal principles that govern society. He envisages this renewal as an antidote to societal chaos and tyranny, and as a return to the grounded principles of subsidiarity, a term borrowed from Catholic social teaching, indicating an ordering of responsibilities, starting from the local and personal, to the national and communal. Such an approach, he believes, resonates deeply with young people navigating the tumultuous landscapes of modern societal expectations and conflicting ideologies. Through this model, Ramaswamy hopes to inspire a generational revival of duty towards oneself, family, and nation, while establishing a framework for national identity rooted in these time-tested principles. In the podcast, Vivek Ramaswamy takes a moment to elaborate on his unique approach to juggling the pressures of his presidential campaign with maintaining his personal life. He affirms that he prioritized maintaining his connection with his family in order to remain grounded and sane amidst the campaign chaos. Ramaswamy reveals that the profound yet simple advice of Tucker Carlson to take his family bubble with him as he campaigns has been instrumental in this. By embedding his family unit into his campaign journey, he maintains his connections with his loved ones, ensuring a sense of normalcy, even when on the road. His wife, Apurva, holds a similar perspective, choosing to continue working her full-time job as a throat surgeon despite Ramaswamy's campaign. This decision not only keeps her connected to her professional identity, but also provides a sense of balance within their familial dynamics. Drawing on the metaphor of a bat using echolocation to orient in darkness, Ramaswamy expounds that the human need for echoes of recognition and stability from the structures in our lives is pivotal. By sending out signals, or upholding responsibilities and affirming their beliefs and roles in society, they receive necessary perception of their location and identity in their world. Diving deeper, Ramaswamy recognizes the issue with promoting an excessive focus on self-identity at the cost of a unified sense of self developed through engagement with others in society. He comments on the necessity of this social integration, distributing responsibility with the community to function as signaling devices for our orientation. Lastly, while acknowledging that perhaps some rare individuals might not require this level of societal anchoring, he firmly expresses that this grounding is crucial for most individuals, including himself. And in the end, Ramaswamy shares his vision for a future where every child in the nation experiences the ultimate privilege he had growing up, a focus on family, education, and God. Following the thread of the conversation, Ramaswamy dives into deep and philosophical discussions about marriage, the values of guidance and wise counsel, shared journeys and purpose. He emphasizes his belief that his and his wife's lives aren't about balancing competing responsibilities, but about making the most impactful mark they can during their lifetimes. Citing their shared belief in individual purposes as the factor that allows them to view their responsibilities as a shared project rather than competing obligations, Ramaswamy expressively articulates the shared drive and commitment between him and his wife, Apurva. This commitment, almost divine according to him, extends not only to their personal lives, but also to their professional pursuits. Drawing on this shared sense of purpose, he remarks on how they've managed to navigate major life changes, including his wife's career as a surgeon, their children's birth, and the demands of his presidential campaign. Each challenge and shift has been guided by a philosophy of cooperation and support rather than alienation. He then draws parallels between the dynamics of a successful marriage and a winning sports team, arguing that this cooperative tension between him and his wife is what strengthens their bond. This metaphor also extends to their parenting and professional life, as they push each other to be the best versions of themselves, fueling a drive towards continual growth and development. In an anecdote about their early shared experiences, Ramaswamy finds shared purpose as a strength. Inferring the critical role of parental influence in marriage choices, he recollects the supportive environment they were surrounded with during their courting period, indicating no external hesitations or concerns over their union. Ramaswamy then dives into the social implications of marriage and the profound importance of the choice of a partner. He argues that family and close friends can provide critical insights into the compatibility of prospective matches, suggesting that a good marriage is not merely a product of luck, but also the result of wise decisions and external counsel. Switching gears, he reveals the nature of his wife's professional life while navigating the pressures of motherhood in his presidential campaign. He describes a time in the wake of their first son's birth coinciding with the start of the pandemic when his wife decides to return to her duties as a surgeon to assist in the overburdened Manhattan hospitals. The conversation navigates through their empathetic decision-making, their roles at the time, and ends with Ramaswamy emphasizing his belief in destiny, the insignificance of results, and the ongoing pursuit of purpose as his guiding principle. His fundamental view is that their shared project on Earth is not about power or prestige, but purpose and making a difference. Engaging in a deep conversation with Dr. Jordan Peterson, Vivek Ramaswamy displays his conviction in his personal and professional initiatives, attributing his success and relentless pursuit of his goals to his wife, Apurva, who he says pushes him to do more and reach further. Setting aside expectations of balancing roles and responsibilities, they bolster their marriage and careers on a foundation of shared purpose and commitment. Ramaswamy describes the influential environment that shaped their early shared experiences, expressing the significance of guidance from family and friends in the choice of a marital partner. He articulates it as not a function of mere luck, but the result of wise decisions, informed advice, and societal context. Discussing the implications of parenting in his presidential campaign, he mentions a significant decision taken by his wife. At a challenging time when their firstborn son arrived amidst the pandemic, she decided to continue her role as a surgeon, aiding the overworked medical staff in Manhattan's hospitals. Continuing the conversation, Ramaswamy and Peterson talk about his progress in what Peterson calls the strangest and most surreal presidential election. The journey could be transformative despite the uncertainty of the ultimate goal, the presidency. Whatever the lessons along the way, these experiences will likely be instrumental in Ramaswamy's life journey, particularly since he's only 37 and has a long way to go. It is at this juncture that Peterson urges him to stick to his principles, abide by his truth, resist the allure of political consultants, and keep communicating directly with the people. This approach resonates with the audience's demand for authenticity and earnestness in the present era. Challenging pressures and temptations will indeed intensify as success comes along, but Peterson encourages Ramaswamy to maintain his balanced focus, his feet on the ground and his head in the sky. A task Peterson expresses Ramaswamy might be well equipped to accomplish with the strong backing of his wife, family, and friends. The future course of these dialogues, as Peterson reveals, would involve tackling controversial topics like a recent article from the New York Times, addressing potential censorship issues, and continuing on their shared commitment to unfiltered truth-telling. Despite the unpredictability of outcomes to these efforts, both remain steadfast in their belief in faith that speaking the truth will undoubtedly lead to the best possible outcome, deviating, though it may, from their plans. Such a perspective maps out a robust foundation of truth for them, counteracting the consequences of speaking false statements, which, as Peterson notes, typically lead to much more dreadful outcomes. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of the Pod Slice.